It's social taco time.
Nom 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 nom.
All right, we're here for social taco. Time to start talking social. So today we're talking about what's on Sarah's mug, which is getting after it. Today we're talking about how you move up in the world, how you get promoted, where you go from being a social media manager. You know, you start with the day-to-day posting on social, talking to consumers, just all the things that comes with being a social media manager. But what's the next step? How do you keep developing your career if you want to keep moving up? I think one of the best pieces of advice I got, I had a boss who was leaving and she, told us, I really want you to sit down and think about what your 5-year plan is, which sounds very, corporate-y and like very boss babe, right? To have a 5-year plan. But I think it's actually really helpful because you just start to think about where you want to go, what you want to do, and what you need to do now to get to that point. I think the place that I really want to go is eventually, digital marketing as a whole and kind of overseeing a department in that capacity as opposed to focusing just on social media. And so for me, what I've started to do is really pick up digital marketing wherever I can, taking a couple of courses so I know more about the things that I don't know. Once you know that those are the things you want to do, you can start to learn more about them. And then you can also look for jobs where you're going to have the opportunity to be close to that and learn more about it.
I was laid off during COVID. And what did I do with my spare time? I rolled up my sleeve, and obviously I was applying for jobs, but I was taking classes, not just because we wanted to finally launch Social Taco and like be rock stars at it, but the fact that like LinkedIn offers LinkedIn learning. And what did that do for me? I sat down, thought the same exact thing Marissa just said, like, what skills do I want to brush up on? Because I have the same goal as you. Like, I want to be the head of my department for like all digital. So I took SEO classes, YouTube classes, straight through LinkedIn.
Both of us, we've kind of come to the conclusion throughout our careers that that's kind of where we want to go, but that's not the only place that you can end up in social media. I think a lot of people might work at an agency where they are the director of social media or the VP of social media, and they oversee social media across channels, or they have a team of social media marketers underneath them.
You can also hop around. Like, I have a really good friend of mine who started out in social media and then decided that she was going to make the jump to PR. But, social media got her to PR because she knew about influencers and she knows about the importance of press releases and how to execute them on the social media platforms.
And I think that's a really good point too. I mean, social media is expanding so much these days. There's so many different places you can go into. And, we talked about, becoming a director and overseeing a department. But if you are working and you find these areas that you really love, like maybe you really do love working with influencers, or maybe you really love making content, or whatever it is that you find that you really love doing, you can totally pursue that and keep going with that. There are places that do just influencers, and obviously there's a way to just be a content creator. In fact, my retirement plan is now to be a YouTuber and make much money.
I fully support that plan. Like, I'm fully with you on that.
So I think one of the most important things you can do for your career is really get an idea of where you want to go, even if you're not ready to go there yet. And so we want to ask you, what are your long-term plans? What have you thought about? What do you think you want to do in 5 years? What really interests you? Leave us comments below and we can chat about, how you get there.
Touch base on the fact that you said, like, you could just focus on influencers. I think we talked about this in our previous video, but a huge misconception for social media is that we're a jack of all trades and everything social media. I have definitely had jobs, specifically the startups, where I come in, they're like, okay, so you're going to do content creation, schedule stuff, influencers, paid social, and, organic social, and all of that, events, like everything. And funny enough, that was like my last job, but it's, it's fun at the beginning. You're rolling up your sleeves and it's like, you need that experience. I think I wouldn't be here if I didn't have that experience. My thing that I really want to make clear, and I think anybody that actually works in social media will agree with me on this, like, no, I want to say, put your freaking foot down, because it's not fair to you. Like, a paid social person is its own role. Like, the amount of research and execution that you have to put into that, and handling analytics it's its own role. And so I want that known as well.
Yeah, I think it really is a jack of all trades, master of none situation. I think you can do a lot of different things. You can do a little bit influencers, you can do paid, you can do events, you can do all of these things. But one, even if you have the expertise, you're not going to be able to really do them really, really well. You're not going to be able to give everything all of the attention it deserves. And two, I find in the jobs that I've had where I was in that position where I was doing a little bit of everything, you burn out so fast. It's so easy to just get to the point where you can't do it anymore. You just don't want to do it. And I think the places that I have worked where I've been asked to do a little bit of everything are the places where I really started to question, do I still want to work here? Do I still want to do social media? And when I left, I was like, oh yeah, I love doing social media. I just hated that job.
Yeah, it's like you've got to respect yourself. And like, mind you, that for me came with years of experience. Like, I look back and wish I could, take care of like younger Sarah in her early 20s starting out and being like, you don't have to take this. Like, you're worth more than, whatever. But I want to also talk about the fact that I just talked to my friend who's a consultant for social media. So that's like a third option too. We discuss working in-house. Yeah, freelancing. And so what she does is she has to figure out her self-worth, like what she's going to sell her, her work for. And yesterday's example, which I want to talk about, is the fact that she presented a contract with like a terms of service, and YouTube was not a part of it. So months into it, the person comes back and says, we now want to do YouTube. So she sat down and calculated how much of an additional budget she would need to do YouTube, presented it to the client, and the client came back and said, oh, no, I need you to just figure out how to put YouTube in the time that I'm already paying you for. And that's not fair because it takes away from the quality of work that you're already outputting. So, that's when you got to push yourself. You got to push back, because people that don't do social media and digital marketing don't know the amount of time and effort it takes for you to execute all these things. So just be sure to stay true to yourself and your worth.
So I think that's a really good example. We should treat, even if we're in-house, even if we're an employee, a full-time employee, we should treat ourselves the same way as if we were freelancers and we're saying this is what's in the job description. And I think it happens quite a lot that people are like, we're on these 3 channels, but now we want to be on YouTube, now we want to be on TikTok, now we want to be on Snapchat. And that comes with the territory a little bit, but I think you have to look at your resources and you have to say, this is what we can do based on what you're giving me and what I have bandwidth for. And if you want to do YouTube, if you want to do this other thing, we need more resources. And I think it's totally fair, and it's fair to the work you're going to put out to say that and to have that boundary. When you're saying you wish you could talk to 26-year-old you, I think it is a thing, because so many social media managers kind of fall into social media, they're admin assistants who just started doing social media or whatever it is. And because social media managers statistically tend to be more women, I think it's something that happens that we do tend to say, oh, I'm just going to take that on. I'm just going to say yes to this. I'm just going to do that. And I'm going to take everything on. I'm going to be all the things. And it's okay to not be all the things.
I continue to talk about self-worth. One of the things, like quick story that I also want to reminisce about, is the fact that early on in my career, I worked for a company where I was brought on to specifically just do social. Within a couple of months early on, their SEO person and web dev team person left the company, and I think PPC as well. Yeah. So they asked me to take on all that work. And obviously it was early on in my career. I didn't feel like saying no. And I also really wanted the experience, and I took that on. And obviously that gave me the experience for the whole digital ecosystem as a whole. So I'm thankful for it. But at the same time, 6 months into the role and having all those responsibilities, I then reapproached the conversation of being compensated the right way, because, you fired 2 people, and it just wasn't, because I did the work and I didn't really put my foot down. I didn't get that raise. And I knew right then and there that I had to start looking for a new job, because I knew that I was worth more than that. So.
Yeah. But the brand that I work on now talks about equal pay so much. So now when I look back at jobs that I've had, and we've had that conversation where I'm like, I've been doing all this stuff and I really think I should get more money. And they were like, no, we don't think so. Now that I know so much about equal pay, I'm like, that was some bullshit. Unfortunately,
yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, I think at the time, you know, you're kind of like, well, that's their prerogative. They can say that. But like, you should know that's bullshit. And you should 100% look for a new job if they're not willing to have that conversation with you.
And another thing to touch on is the fact that, you know, you mentioned women. Like, women are known to be scared to ask for raises. And I was lucky enough to, you know, have an uncle who actually taught classes on how to build your career and negotiate raises. So Marissa, I don't know, I feel like I probably shared that portfolio. I did. Okay. So he shared early on in my career, he shared a PowerPoint basically telling you how to negotiate your raise, the kind of research that you need to do into it, how to present yourself and get that raise. You guys, I'm not kidding you. I went from like, this is really early on in my career, from 30K to 60K for my next job, just by knowing how to present myself and my key points. Then I just kept jumping in the 20Ks after that. And it's like, you have to know that, you know, I'm coming back to, you know, your self-worth. I've talked to friends who are scared, like, especially women who are like, there's actually, you know, a friend in LA who commutes 2 hours from San Pedro to Santa Monica, because I was like, dude, you could have negotiated out of that. You could have said I could have had certain days to work from home, or, you know, come in, you know, different hours. Yeah.
I'm still really afraid to do that. And I mean, I think I'm really grateful to you for having, you know, put that in my head and like making me aware that I can negotiate for those things and I can ask for things. And I think, you know, before I had you kind of guide me in that way, it literally never occurred to me. It literally never occurred to me that I could ask for that. And I think, you know, in more recent years, in my last couple of jobs, I haven't been afraid to say, this is my number. And even though, you know, maybe it is on the higher side for the area, or maybe, you know, maybe it's higher than they were thinking for that job, that's what my number is. And if I don't get that job, that means that you're not the right job for me. This is what my number is. You can take it or leave it. And you can do that too. It doesn't have to be the job saying, this is our number, take it or leave it. It's a two-way street.
Yeah, but also realize that the first number that they're coming to you with is not the highest that they can go. They're given a certain number and they try to lowball you at first. And it's like, just also know that if you cannot even get a little bit higher on that salary, negotiate other things. It's like I mentioned, let me work from home certain days. Can I have extra vacation hours, extra sick days? Like, you can move things around, cover my cell phone bill. You know, there's so many options. Don't settle for the first thing that's presented to you.
So beyond just, you know, making sure that you're getting a salary that makes sense for what you do, making sure that your duties and responsibilities and the perks that you negotiate, I think the other thing that women tend not to do is hype themselves up when they're looking for jobs. Women will look at a list of job requirements and they'll say, okay, I can do 4 out of 10 of these things. That means I'm not required. That means I'm not qualified, so I'm not applying to this job. Men will look at the same list and be like, I know how to do that stuff. I'm applying for this job. And so you've probably heard it before, but when you're applying for jobs, when you're negotiating for salaries, when you're trying to grow your career, have the confidence of a mediocre man. And you can do it.
So that's a wrap on how you can grow your social media career, how to get promoted, how to negotiate your salary, and how to stay up to, you know, on trends. We'd love to hear what you guys think about this. What's helped you throughout your career? What do you need help with? Feel free to subscribe and let us know what you think. Bye.